Good morning. Doing a little bit of a different video. So, apart from uploading my music and sharing it with the world, I wanted to share something else today. This video is going to be regarding formatting and creating a score to look more professional in MuseScore. Over the years, MuseScore has developed a lot professionally, and I think you can get some pretty decent scores out of there if you just know where all the settings are. So, today I'm going to be taking you start to finish through making an entire score in MuseScore. I'm going to be using marching band as an example for this, considering that marching band is everything that I do. Hopefully some of the settings and toggles and shortcuts that I've found hopefully will help you in your future endeavors when writing for a band. So without further ado, I'm going to transfer over to MuseScore and start a new score from scratch. As I said, we're going to be using a marching band format for this. So I've got the new score window open, and I'm just going to start creating from scratch my typical instrumentation. Now, what I typically do here is kind of just leave all of this blank. I'll add it later. I do need to go ahead and just throw in a few things. But other than that, we now have this terrible looking score. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and play with all the settings in page settings and the style settings and just change a whole lot of things up. So to start, the absolute minimum, first thing I'm going to do, format, style, and I'm pretty much going to go down a lot of this stuff and change it to my exact specifications. So we'll start. I prefer Finale Maestro. I think it gives a cleaner look in the notation all around. Page, fine. Sizes, fine. Measure numbers. I do like to display measure numbers everywhere on the score. In order to do that, you can display them at every interval. You can do 1. That's easiest for drill writers if you're writing for marching band, is to have numbers at the very top. But we're going to stick with every system for now. Now when we get to beams, I do like for the beams to be flat, specifically on my percussion parts, but if it happens on the other stabs, then that really doesn't matter for me. A majority of things I'm going to change here are going to be a lot of text styles. I prefer to use free serif for almost everything. You can choose whatever font you want. MuseScore likes to push Edwin, their professional engraving font, but I'm not too big of a fan of it. But over here, you can go ahead and change the style for any of them that you want. Oh. For sticking, for percussion, I've always thought it's a little bit too bulky. Bulky in the sense of the size, but not how it looks. It needs to stand out. So after I change that to free serif, I usually make it just a tad bit smaller, but I bold it. And I'm not, the size and the musical symbol scale kind of does the same thing, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that to 80 as well. Now, all of this will fix itself as soon as I hit OK down here. And you're going to see a change immediately. Well, not that much of a change right now, but not a change immediately, but you're going to notice that it's going to look a lot cleaner once I start actually editing things. So let's go ahead and make my template right here. Now when it comes to the instrument names, I have a very specific naming convention, but it's important to make sure that you go ahead and change what they have on here, because half the time it's really not what you want, and it's kind of redundant. Everybody knows, at least in marching band, that the clarinet is in B flat. So we're going to go ahead and start here. And you can just double click on that name. Change it however you want. Make sure that you change the short and the long name. Get to low brass, this is where things get a little bit tricky and personalized, because me personally, writing for small schools that have multiple skill levels between the trombones and the baritones, I prefer to write for low brass. Now, when it comes to actually publishing music, I will write for low brass, but I will determine which parts should usually be which. But here's an example of what that might look like. Now, when we get to these battery stabs, that's where I get really aggravated. Because typically, MuseScore, this is a marching snare drum. MuseScore will change it, or default, to the one-line percussion. Now, this is practice that was used when they didn't want to use a lot of printer ink.
Blah, proper name, place name, backstory stuff.
So, we're going to edit that right here. We'll double click, and then we'll take it up to 5 lines. And usually, my naming convention is the same across the board. Another thing I like to do is to have the battery grouped up together. So I'll just take this bar line and I'll drag it through. The last thing that I want to do with the battery is select all 4 of these stabs and check out the brackets and put them all in a bracket together. Now, we've got it looking cleaner, but this is a little bit bulky. I've gone in and I've done my instrument names. Now I need to go in and fumble with the page. So I'll just go up to Format, Page Settings. Now I'm writing for marching band, and typically when you publish a marching band chart, it comes in landscape. So I'll select landscape, but you'll notice this isn't all fitting. So take the staff size down a little bit, and you might worry that it's a little bit too small, but we're going to bump it back up in just a minute. I think that you should fit as much music on the page as you can, while obviously still making it a good print. So I'm going to change these page margins a little bit and give myself a little bit room for music. Now I have perfectly readable music right there. For me, as an arranger, sound is incredibly important. I think putting out the best possible mock-up of a tune is the greatest way for your client to know that they're getting a quality product. So I mess around with the sound a lot. I've delved into I have looked into the world of sound fonts that MuseScore has available, and I've purchased a few of those, and I've found that they work wonderfully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit F10 to open up my mixer, and you see I've got all of my stuff right here. Now this is all basic, so let's do this real quick. This is what I do with all of my template files. I build a chord, and then I balance that chord in my mixer with various types of articulation and dynamics. So we'll start here. I'm just going to build a B flat 7 or something. Let's change the key first. While I'm here changing the key, I do want to go ahead and note the layout of my bar over here. This is everything that I specifically need to do my work with marching band. And I've found that getting your palettes all organized as you want them and only have the stuff you need is a great way to optimize your workflow. You can take a look at them right here. I've got pretty much only the essentials written down. So that being said, let's go here to key, and we're going to change this to B flat. What we're going to do is copy that and go this way, then put accents on all of them. Alright, now before I do any mixing, any changing of sounds, any mastering whatsoever, let's just take a listen to this. So I'm going to open up my mixer again, and I'm going to take you through, well, not really take you through, I'm going to speed this up in post, but you're going to watch me do all of my stuff. Now, as I'm doing this, I do also like to take a listen at individual sections or parts of the band as to make sure that I'm getting the right blend within that section and then putting the whole thing together. Let's take a listen at the final product of my mixing. Very solid band sound, as you can hear. Solid, nice and blended. I am incredibly particular about how I want my percussion to sound in the score, so this is going to take a while to set up. Now, for everything percussion, I prefer Tap Space Virtual Drumline. Fantastic product, absolutely foolproof. You can choose to go with Muse Drumline, it is free, but I bought the Virtual Drumline and Virtual Percussion sound fonts from MuseHub. Now, I do actually own the full version of Virtual Drumline, so I will be using that very scarcely just for my auxiliaries. To a certain extent, I do prefer using the Contact version of these marching drums, and I don't use MuseScore's version because I think it just has a lot more flexibility. But for the simplicity's sake of this video, we're just going to use the VDL version, which I've also created my own maps for. So essentially, we're going from this right here to this right here. And now to finally write the percussion for my mixing. Up in the winds, I wrote one without accents and one with accents. We're just going to copy and paste the same thing twice for this one. Small efficient writing tip, you can select an accent and then select all accents near. I gotta add these. If you select one accent and then go all the way down, you can flip them all to the top, or actually it's better to go to properties and hit above so your marcatos will stay there. And boom, this is how drumline music is supposed to look. With this accent thing I showed you earlier, select one where you want it to happen. I'll start with the snare, and then select the rightmost. It'll still select all of them. And this is great for drumline music because you can select all four of these instruments and hit above, and your music will look like it's supposed to. Now, let's take a listen. What I like to do on all of my drumline music is select the accents, right click, select similar. This will select all shots within your drumline, and I like to up the playback on that. I like those shots to ring out. So let's hear the difference on that. It'll really hit. When it comes to adding sticking, I'll select where I want it to start, go to add, text, sticking, and this is so much better than the lyric function, because with the lyric function you have to manually place it above the dynamics. With sticking, it does it automatically. You just enter your sticking and then press space to move on to the next note. Now you can really see how much cleaner this looks since we edited the properties of the sticking text earlier. If you caught what I just did while I was writing those parts, I copied and pasted something that made this score way too obnoxiously tall. Sometimes you'll get that if I go over here and I copy this tuba part and I put it in the piccolo. Good lord, it's gonna do that. And then even if I delete it, that's still there. Fear not. Save the file. That's it. I saved the file and all of the spacing fixed itself. Now when you're working with these MuseScore mallet percussion instruments, the only thing that will work is the 30-second through stem. Anything else, that sounds like a roll. This does not sound like a roll. That just makes the sound. That just turns this into 16th notes. What you want to do is get that roll sound that it's actually programmed to do. A neat thing that I can do as well is I can take all of these dynamics. You can't shift and keep the hairpins, but you can shift for all the dynamics and then press Control to get the hairpin. Boom. We do have a loud one and a soft one, so I'm just going to copy this and put it over here. However, the great thing about these MuseScore ones is that with staff text, you can change exactly what you want it to sound like. So we'll start with medium plastic. We'll use rubber xylophone mallets. And then we'll use soft mallets for the other two. We're going to use rosewood bars. Still a relatively soft sound. Now, watch what happens in the loud one. Quite a different sound we have there. One really neat sound flag quirk that I forgot to mention is that I can start at the edge and gradually move towards the center. And I can change this text to say what I want. And it still makes the sound that I want it to make. So if we listen to how that has adjusted the snare sound, let's listen to the percussion balancing as a whole. Now a few things. My bass drums are overpowering things, my gong is overpowering things, and the vibraphone ringing out is definitely overpowering things. So we're going to adjust that. Alright, now that we've written everything out, let's take a listen. Pretty good, right? Since this is a video about formatting, let's go ahead and take us back into page view. As you can see, my music has gotten much taller. So, gonna have to shrink this down a little bit more. So what I'm gonna do, since it goes in such large increments, is I'm gonna find that sweet spot where the music stays on the page and go up ever so gradually See, like that. That was 0.24 to 0.25, and now it's off the page. Now what you can do is make a separate title page, and that's what I've started doing. But for the sake of this, let's try and keep it all on the title page. So here I have exactly how I want my score formatted. Now it's time for parts. The neat thing about this is that since I've already changed all these instrument names, they will reflect in the parts as long as I've changed them before I've opened and created the part score. So let's go ahead and add our system marking down here on top of the percussion. To make sure that all fits, let's go on and add some tempo. See, it'll do that right there. It'll be great for you. Let's go ahead and throw a rehearsal marking right there. MuseScore will automatically do that on both ends. Now, let's say I don't want all of this right here. I'll add my end bar right here, and there's a nifty tool in Tools called Remove Empty Trailing Measures. Boom. Now this is a stretch score, but that's because I haven't written a lot. Now that all of the music is figured out, let's move on to parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my parts dialog, and I've got everything right here. Now sometimes the part names are finicky, so before you open them, and I cannot stress this enough, before you open them, go ahead and rename them here. With the whole naming convention thing, you saw earlier that I renamed everything down the score. Now what MuseScore does with the part files is it takes the name of the instrument you actually put in. So even if I put in first auxiliary, second auxiliary, right? Before I renamed these, MuseScore called it General MIDI Percussion and General MIDI Percussion parentheses 1. So I don't like that. So now that I've gotten all of these renamed, and it will accurately reflect, 1, what the printed file is called, and 2, the name in the top left corner, now I'm ready to open all of these parts. As you can see, it formats it just kind of very defaultly. So what I'm going to do to save some time is go into Format, Page Settings, and let's say that because this is marching band, I also want this landscape. So I've got it landscape right here, but let's say that this is just too small for me. Like I really just can't see. So I'm gonna go ahead and make it, we'll make it 79, right? I can apply this to all the parts. So all of the parts will be landscape and 79. And sometimes I mess with the margin on the parts, but not often. I've applied it to all the parts. Now, I don't have to worry about it. The one thing you do have to worry about is how the music is actually spaced on each individual part. So, I'm going to go right here and create a bunch of system breaks with enter. So now, I've written my music, I've done all of these breaks, I made the template, and I did the audio. What's next is to change up all of your stuff, whatever your thing is, it'll change across the parts, and it should keep the same format. Now, I will re-stress this. If you make a part and then change the borderline, if you open a part and then want to change a bunch of stuff, for whatever reason, it's going to be a complete nightmare. All right. So make sure that you do everything that you want to do before you actually open the instrument. Now, my score is formatted. My score is balanced. My PDFs are formatted the way that I want them. All that's left to do is wrap it up. I gotta write some music, and then that's it. So one of the most important things that I can do, because as you can see, this has been a long process. About an hour has passed since I started recording this, and all I did was write a few chords and change some text. But to make sure your work all goes in favor, I would remove everything so you've got nothing but emptiness. You have your template. So what you're going to want to do is save this file. We'll save it as oops. I've now saved this as the template for the video. So anytime that I want to make a new marching band chart, I can open this template, start writing, and then save it as something else. To take you through what this looks like in action, after I've done all of the text and all of the balancing and everything that I need to do, I am going to show you, just give you the example. So as you can see, it's all working out beautifully. All of my text is working. For any drill writer, the numbers at the top of the score. I've got text here and there, whatever I need. Now specifically for my published template, I've tried to shorten it down a lot, right? So I've got flute piccolo on the same staff. I've got the treble clef baritone reading directly from the tenor sax, etc., etc., etc. I could fit all my copyright information down here. And if we take a look at the parts, these are pretty well formatted as well. I've had to put in a few breaks to make sure that it is readable and well spaced. But aside from that, it's a pretty solid function of a chart. Above all else, this is a video I've been really excited to make for quite a while. I think MuseScore is a fantastic program that is only getting better, and there's a lot of little niche things that you can do in there to make it that professional arranging and composing software that people just don't realize, and it hides behind the immaturity of the scores on MuseScore.com that don't exactly look up to par. So the next time that you think, oh well, I can never be a professional with this program, explore the settings, learn the easy user interface that is user-friendly, and above all else, if you have a question, please interact with the very active forums and Facebook pages about this group. They said MuseScore couldn't be professional, and I've published my music with MuseScore. So, take that. But thank you so much for watching this. As you can see, it's starting to get bright outside. It's not been day this whole time. It's currently 7 in the morning, and I haven't gone to sleep. I consider myself to be kind of a MuseScore guru, so if you have any questions about the software or any of its capabilities, I've been using this for well over about 8 years now, and I've been there through all of the improvements. I would love to help out. I'd love to chat about the software and help you realize your full potential using MuseScore Studio, especially for all of the Finale users for whom which MuseScore is implementing several features just for you. So hopefully this can be a fruitful endeavor to learn how to use this program. Let me know if you want to see anything like this in the future. Like I said, I'd love to give tutorials and help out for this kind of stuff. But until then, later.